I'm going to try and tell jokes for a lot of this talk, mainly to try and mask how emotional it's going to be for me to give this talk. This place changed my life, and I'll tell you a lot about the story about it. So, you can't see this, but this is us at the beach as children, and that's me over here, and our parents are making us wear badges, and these badges actually say, "Take me." what kind of parents do that? Okay. All right, so I had an amazingly great upbringing. As I said, it was incredibly fun. Okay, so now at the end of that, I had to do a PhD, or I wanted to do a PhD. I decided I wanted to do this, and I also decided I really, really wanted to go to America. So basically, I filled out this application form, sent it off, and lo and behold, they accepted me into the program, which was amazing. Except that it said in the letter, we're going to pay you $8,000 a year. And I was like, there's no way that's possible. Because that, again, was more money than my mom and dad made combined. To sort of go from Glasgow to Southern California as a 21-year-old was just ridiculous. It was insane. And I remember showing up and going out to meet this lady who was going to show me around an apartment complex. I don't even know what an apartment complex was. And so she took an apartment complex in Costa Mesa, and she said, "We have 4 tennis courts, we have 3 swimming pools, and we have 8 jacuzzis." And I said to her, "What's a jacuzzi?" And she said to me, "It's a place you go, and you get some beer, and you sit in it, and you relax." I was like, that sounds amazing. America is wonderful. All right, so anyway, so this is me. But obviously I came here to study chemistry. And I joined the lab of Larry Overman. So Irvine was just the most spectacular time. And it changed me completely as a human being, from being sort of just this Scottish guy who didn't know what he was doing. By the time Larry was finished with me, I actually was an okay chemist. But just the whole culture of being in America sort of convinced me what an unbelievably amazing country, but also what an amazing, unbelievable university this place really is. And one of the 3 questions that everyone asks me everywhere I go now is asymmetric organic catalysis. What on earth does this mean? What does that mean? Some people I actually invented this term, which I'll tell you about, and people have accused me of maybe I should have won the Nobel Prize in Literature for sort of coming up with this, but I'll try and explain to you what it means. Now, some metals, certainly not all metals, as we'll talk about at the end, but some metals can be expensive, toxic, and difficult to work with, and in many cases they're not sustainable, because if you take them out of the earth, you basically can't put them back in, you can't recycle them back in to a sort of life cycle. So that is the reason, but it's also the fact that they're so reactive is why you have to be in these glove boxes. On the left-hand side, however, this is the organic part, and these were typically inexpensive, safe, and sustainable. So we started to think about what if you only use the organic part as the catalyst to do this, and this ultimately became known as organocatalysis. So you realize it's really important to give areas an identity or a vocabulary. And this is actually carried forward in the modern era. Things like machine learning, AI, nanotechnology, even organocatalysis is a name that allows you to effectively allow our gel fields to grow below those umbrella terms. And I love this photograph for a lot of different reasons. That's V. Dong, who's a professor here, who's an undergraduate here, just a spectacular person to have in your lab at the beginning of your career. You could not be any luckier to have a person such as V. And the other reason I love this is 10 past 10 on a Friday night, and they're all in lab, and they're working hard, trying to make a difference. And it just gives me goosebumps looking at this photograph. But while I was there, I really started thinking about what I wanted to work on, and I realized I wanted to work on organocatalysis. Why? The reasons I think were obvious. These catalysts should be readily available from nature's building blocks. They shouldn't be sensitive to water or air, because we're organic. You and I, we're organic, and we're out in the atmosphere, and we're actually just fine. Their molecules themselves are so abundant, they're often generally inexpensive. They're easy to handle. You typically don't keep them in a glove box, you keep them outside. And ultimately, they should be non-toxic. They should be readily available, readily removed from waste streams, but they should be recyclable. They should be able to go back into the life cycle process, which makes them ultimately sustainable. But the original reason why we wanted to do this was to actually think about ways to develop organic catalysts that would work for many reactions. And this is something that we're sort of hopeful is that potentially this could become a new field of asymmetric catalysis. Now that was an incredibly grandiose idea, especially because we had absolutely no idea how to do it. Absolutely no thoughts on how to actually achieve this. We thought this would be a great place to test this idea. So we set it up, and this is the work of a first-year graduate student. Her name was Curio Cat. So this was unbelievably exciting. And I remember being so happy about this and so excited. I went into my office, I closed the door, I drew the blinds, and I jumped up and down for about 5 minutes. I called my wife, and I said to my wife, I think we're going to get tenure. It turns out, when you're a young assistant professor, tenure focuses the mind. I would say it really does. So what are our applications of organocatalysis? Well, there's many, and there's things like depolymerization and trying to take plastics out of the ocean using organic. That's one application that's really fantastic, I think. There's other ones I really like. For example, in the flavor and fragrance industry, it's a really big area of catalysis, and you might wonder, well, who cares about perfume? But perfume is made on an enormous scale every day. But the main application, unquestionably, has been that in the area of medicine. I'll just show you one example. This is talsegipan. I learned recently about a very large number of people worldwide that suffer from migraine. And this is a treatment for migraine, and they actually make the desired mirror image using this chemistry that I showed you earlier in the talk. So that's been really pretty satisfying to see. Organocatalysis is really inexpensive, which makes it affordable and accessible field to the whole world. And as a result of that, research in this area is being performed on every continent in almost every country around the world that does chemistry. And so the thing that I love about that is people ask me, where's the next big idea in organocatalysis going to come from? And I always say, I don't know, but I know it's not going to be based upon who has the most money. It's going to be based on who is the best idea, which I think is truly wonderful, and something that I'm really happy about. This is a question that basically people ask me all the time. Where I go, how did you find out? What was it like? And I'll tell you this story. So basically what happened, on October the 6th, 2021, I was lying in bed, and it was 5 a.m. on the East Coast, so I was sleeping, and my wife got up, and my wife was really angry. She's like, why is your phone buzzing all the time? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm sleeping. So she basically gets up and she looks at my phone and she moves it onto the window ledge so to avoid the noise. And she goes, and by the way, she said, it looks like Ben List is trying to reach you. And I'm like, what does Ben List want me for? So anyway, so I get up and I looked at my phone, and I know you can't read this, but this basically says, Dr. MacMillan, please call me at this number, Goran Hansen, Royal Swedish Academy of Science. And I read that, I'm like, Dr. MacMillan? Who the hell is Dr. MacMillan? And I'm sleepy, so I'm like, this is not very good. And then I get this thing, and this is from Ben List. Don't tell him that that's my symbol for him on my phone, but it basically says, wake up. And I'm like, oh God. So I go off to this other room. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, Dave, it's happening. And I'm like, what's happening? And he goes, we're running this thing. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, this is bogus. I'm like, I know my group. And I've had a really mischievous group my whole life. This is going to be just an absolutely fantastic practical joke. And I'm feeling bad for Ben List, because he's obviously getting embroiled in this whole thing. So I tell him all of that. And you can't see this, but it basically says, Ben, I actually don't think, can read this. I don't think this is actually real. I received a text from someone in Sweden where they spelled my name wrong, etc. I'm pretty sure this is people who are playing a prank. And he says, I tell you, they're playing a pretty good prank. I know the voice of the people, Dave, this is happening. And I said, bet you $1,000 it's a prank. If they were trying to reach me, I'm pretty sure they'd have my number and my actual name. So, this is awesome. Sorry to let you down. He says, call me if they reach you. Okay, I look forward to the $1,000. That's going to be a nice bonus dinner together. That was very nice. And then I wrote, no, going back to sleep. Cheers. I went back to sleep. I literally went back to sleep. And I fell asleep. My wife said I was like snoring away. And I didn't realize, like half a world away, there's these people trying to get a hold of me. And you can't see this, but there's a massive amount of press back there, and they're all like, why is he not picking up the phone? And I'm snoring my head off. Anyway, so about 25 minutes later, my phone's buzzing a good bit more. I'm like, I'll go downstairs and go down to the kitchen counter, open my laptop to see, who won the Nobel Prize. And I'd look it up in the New York Times. So I go down to the New York Times, and I go to the New York Times, and up pops this picture. All right. Now, I sort of look at this, I'm like, well, that kind of looks like Ben West. I'm like, but who the hell is that? I just think that I don't really feel like I've sort of run into any major roadblocks. I think that, I'll give you one thing, another slight piece of advice, is don't be remorseful. Never, ever, ever worry about, did I do the right thing or not do the right thing. Just always decide that everything you've ever done has been good, and it's the right thing to do. Even when you fail, right? Because failure is just another weird word for experience, and you need experience to be able to get to where you're going to get to. So just don't ever worry about, did I do the right thing or not, and don't worry about the past, just keep moving forward.